Preeyam Tolia, Senior Research Analyst at Axis Securities as well. Preeyam, good afternoon and welcome to the show. Clearly, I mean, as Mahima was pointing out as well, we have seen some bit of an impact that has come in. How are you looking at it, and what's your view with regards to the margin picture, taking the palm oil price increase into consideration for the second half of the year?
So yeah, good afternoon. So definitely the palm oil prices, recent increase in the palm oil prices is likely to impact the margins for the companies, FMCG companies. Mainly the food companies will likely to get hit on the margins. Please note that also in terms of the demand, right? The demand, especially in the urban markets, are also weak. So in terms of the overall top line and the volume growth, the FMCG companies are not getting help over that side also. So definitely the weaker demand in the urban as well as the increase in the raw material prices is likely to impact the margins for the FMCG companies in the second half of FY25.
Priyam, I just want to understand for all of these companies, what percentage of their total raw material constitutes of palm oil? And in terms of margins getting hurt, a ballpark figure as to how much of a margin hurt will these companies face, in terms of your estimation?
So if you see from a portfolio composition, right? So for HUL, the major component of palm oil is used in the soaps bar, right? And soaps bar also contributes significant in terms of the portfolio. So depending upon the composition of the portfolio, it depends. So roughly around 15 to 20, 25% kind of a palm oil is used in most of the FMCG companies, right? And the majorly the food companies has a higher component, right? So definitely here the margins in the food, we are not positive for the food companies in terms of the overall margins profile.
Right. I also want to understand that, a lot of things are happening in this space. One thing that companies have said that they will take price hikes, but the price hikes may not match the kind of, raw material prices that are going up. So there will be a gap between that, first of all. And secondly, we are seeing that there is a demand slowdown in terms of the urban population as well. And considering, palm oil prices also inching up, how do you expect overall H2 to pan out for FMCG staples?
So yeah, so again, so like I said, in the demand front, right, the volumes are not coming up, right? So taking price hikes in this environment when your volume growth is not picking up, as well as the raw material prices have come up. So the limitation of the price hikes, so the companies are likely to take a limited price hikes, right? So that's why companies have highlighted that they are likely to take a mid and a low mid single digit kind of price hikes, and not double digit kind of a price hikes which the palm oil has increased. So yes, the in order if they take the larger price hikes, then definitely the volumes for them is likely to come down. So they have to put the right balance between in terms of the price hikes and can take consideration into the volume, because this time around bringing back the volume growth is much more important, right? You cannot grow on a sustained basis by hiking the price for the products, right? It will ultimately impact the overall volumes. So taking into consideration, companies are likely to take low to mid kind of a single digit price hikes. However, if you see from an FY25 perspective, the overall impact on the earnings will be negative.
Priyam, an important aspect that you mentioned with regards to volume versus margins, right? Yes, the companies are going to focus with regards to volumes. Margins is not something that they will look at in terms of priority. But if this is going to be the scenario, for how long will the pain persist? Because right now we're just factoring in a margin hit in the second half of FY25. Do you think that is expected to continue in FY26 as well, at the cost of maintaining or, sustaining on the volume front?
So we'll have to see how the prices of raw materials move, right? It will, if the prices move further from the current level, the raw material prices, right? Then it will be a definitely impact for the FY26 numbers. But the companies are saying that if the raw material prices remains at the current level, then they are able to take the prices of mid to low single digit. At the same time, they will also focus on the cost efficiency measures, right, which will ultimately stabilize their EBITDA from a EBITDA perspective.
Got it.
Uh, uh, how much of a price, what's the price trend that you are factoring in so far in terms of your forward earnings for palm oil?
So see, we don't have to. So we don't consider only the palm oil, right? We also consider the rest of the raw material prices, such as another key raw material prices is the crude, right? So depending upon we see the holistic picture of how the basket moves. So we are considering around 4 or 5% kind of price hikes in terms of the companies uh, uh, going ahead.
All right. Priyam, I also want to understand that you talked about the FMCG staple space, but palm oil also kind of affects the snacking industry. Now, I know you don't cover the snacking industry as such, but you do have a view as to how, it is impacting the snacking space as well. FMCG, we don't have volumes, but snacking space, we do have volumes. So, how do you see, palm oil prices inching up affecting the snacking sector?
Yeah. So if you see from a snacking perspective, right, the category is a low margin category, right? And any impact in terms of key raw material prices like palm oil, then there is a very limited scope for the company to, take the price hikes for the snackings. Because if you decrease the grammage, right, and if you reduce the grammage, then definitely you will get impact on the volumes front. So the impact on the food, and particularly food, if you are in the low margin segment such as snacking, right? So ultimately it will impact the margins of the company.
All right. And what about companies that are kind of, into manufacturing of the palm oil derivatives or the palm oil itself? We have, counters like Godrej Agrovet, Patanjali Foods, and also Adani Wilmar. Your take on that, is it going to benefit these companies? Because I believe that palm oil as a percentage of their total revenue is not very big. But overall, do you think that inching of palm oil prices will
No,
have a positive impact?
definitely. Yeah. So the edible oil companies, they do have a significant portion in terms of the palm oil, right? And again, the low margins category is likely to getting him impacted much more higher than the traditional FMCG or staples companies. So we don't cover the per se the stocks such as Godrej Agrovet and Patanjali, but definitely if the portfolio consists of higher a low margin categories such as edible oil, and then definitely they were able to get a hit on the margins.
Right. So, Preeyam, taking the valuations also into consideration, because forever I think FMCG valuations have never been cheap, but taking the troubles into consideration as well, what would your top picks be, number one? And two, would you really advise investing at current levels?
Yeah. So we are looking at the companies such as Varun Beverages, such as Jyothy Labs. These companies are on the expansion spree. When I say the expansion, some of the companies such as Varun Beverages are expanding the geographical reach. They are expanding their product portfolio, right? So there the growth is likely to continue for them in terms of the earnings, though there will be some or plus and minus kind of impact on the margins when it comes to packaging. But if you see from a growth perspective, we continue to see the growth momentum to continue for the Varun Beverages. And at the same time, Jyothy Labs. So now they are expanding they're expanding it towards the north and the western part of India. Traditionally, they are into south and the east kind of it. So we are focusing on the companies which are into the expansion mode, and also there is a limited in terms of the recent price inflation in the palm oil and crude.
So, Varun Beverages and Jyothy Laboratories, two topics coming in from Preeyam Tolia. Preeyam, thank you so much for joining us on the show and sharing the views, and thank you, Mahima, as well.